Hello, this is Style, and I would like to introduce you to a very special male feminist, Binhthanhvo. Binhthanhvo here seems to think that I cannot make a simple, intelligent, rational argument against him and his precious strain of feminism. Now I've made several arguments against his claims that a woman should have complete unadulterated control over the fate of her fetus, while the man is forced to financially support whatever decision she makes for whatever reason. I believe in the radical notion of gender equality, namely that if a woman should be able to abort a fetus during conception, so too should a father be able to nullify his responsibility during conception. The woman can still have her child, she just cannot demand the father play any part in its upbringing. Namely, she cannot demand child support. The woman should probably take this as a hint that if the father does not want to support the child, she may want to wait a little longer before starting a family. His profound response verbatim: "If you want to be a deadbeat dad, go right ahead." These are words of wisdom to be recorded in stone for future generations. According to Bin, if a woman shirks motherhood, she is empowered and exercising her right as a woman. If a father decides that during conception he doesn't want to be a father, or does not even know that he is a father, he's a deadbeat dad. No exceptions. Even an amateur debater can spot a double standard here, but when your mouth foaming rabbit to vilify and distance yourself from your own sexuality, you're bound to take a few rational shortcuts to support your self-loathing beliefs. Bin also orders men to man up and support feminism, because it's their responsibility as men. What if I feel in this enlightened, gender-neutral society I am entitled to make an educated decision, and don't have to march lockstep to a philosophy I do not believe, and because a self-hating male thinks it's my role as protector and defender of all things feminine and effeminate? Does that make me less of a male? What if I could not care less what someone who hates masculinity thinks about my sexuality? Does that leave his precious, irrational beliefs dead in the water? Finally, Bin, in his characteristic desperation, claims that women are oppressed by some obscure conspiracy or something. Basically, most men, honorary women excluded of course, are engaged in this patriarchy, where they smoke cigars, shoot highballs, and plot new ways to abuse women. It's a conspiracy theory, no matter how you rephrase it. Now, a conspiracy theory cannot be discounted on those grounds alone. Rather, I will note his sources and his arguments, almost always just as system statistics, lifted from their website or feminist-aligned organizations. The gain for painting women as victims, for the latter should be clear, as should any bias. You don't really need a feminist organization if the reason for the wage gap is that women tend to favor lifestyle over economic gain. And the former? Well, 1 in 75 men are imprisoned, while less than 1 in 750 women are imprisoned. The justice industry and the men imprisoned are big business. Guards, lawyers, prosecutors, all to imprison men. Now painting men, mainly low-income or quote-unquote urban men, as evil should have clear economic incentives for a society with a higher per capita incarceration rate than Russia or China. After all, those guards, lawyers, prosecutors, and the women who staff and live in the domestic abuse shelters have to put food on the table by any means necessary. Logic and reason be damned. Now, with such impartial sources, how could Bin possibly arrive at the conclusion that men are evil and women never responsible for any misfortune that overcomes them, self-inflicted or not? Well, if his statements on eating disorders are correct, this evil patriarchal society is at fault for any poor decisions a woman or girl makes. Initiative and self-determination are excised from the picture, and women are painted as the perpetual victims. Women are the victims of their own sex, men the drooling, Neolithic oppressors. Some people may find this difficult to believe. For women, their sexuality is often yet another option for them to unfairly advance themselves at the expense of more deserving men and women. How many times have you seen a worker who arrives late, leaves early, and seems more occupied with whining about oppression and the degradation of women while wearing canyon cleavage and less about work get promoted because she was sleeping with the boss. To Bin, this is yet another example of the degradation and devaluation of women. To Bin, when the boss is indicted in sexual harassment for conceding to her advances, and she makes off with a 6-digit settlement and company money, she was the victim. But then, this is the kind of person who blocks anyone who questions his self-loathing views. After all, feminism ideology is so right and robust that it must be protected from any form of criticism. Logic and reason be damned to hell.